This is Hot Mic with Tom Izzo, presented by Northwestern Mutual.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Hour 2, ready to rock and roll here on a Thursday morning. Got a new lineup for football season. Really excited about for the next, 14 weeks or so. The next 40 minutes on a Thursday, we're going to get both of the Bison coordinators to join us. Stan Larson coming up in just a little bit. We lead off with a home run hitter himself. Grant Olson joins us, North Dakota State defensive coordinator. Sources say there's a football game to be played on Saturday. I don't know if you know this. There's a game coming up on Saturday. But I want to remind you here, tomorrow, I think, is the 13-year anniversary, gosh, we're old, of the Kansas State football game. So I'm part of that question. Have you had any salt packets throughout fall camp? Have you done that?
I haven't done any salt packets, but the strength staff that comes around with the extra salted Gatorade, they got a good concoction. They got a really good concoction that I've been enjoying. So anyway, so I've got a couple of those, but I had no idea on the K-State game. I'm glad you told me. That's fantastic.
Have you ever been hotter in your life than that night? Because I haven't. That was the hottest it's ever been.
That's a great question. You know what? I will tell you this. This May, they sent me down to go recruit Texas for a day.
Okay.
And, they got practice, whatever, at 5 o'clock. It was so brutally hot. Like, it was one of those that I'm like, it's hard to remember the K-State game all the time, but, like, man, it was up there. This recruiting trip most recently in May down to Texas was one of them. I called Donovan one right away. Like, dude, this is brutal. Oh, man.
All right, so fall camp is in the books. You're going to play a football game. Tell me how you evaluated what you saw defensively to say, all right, this is where we're going to go. This is what we want to roll with in 2026.
Yeah, great question. It's probably interesting that, in years past, we would have really game planned our first opponent, maybe even your second and third opponents in May, right? Well, that was when there was no transfer portal and you knew exactly what you had and who was coming back, and you had a bunch of juniors and seniors and you knew the team and all that stuff. Well, I think part of it is, honestly, we waited a little bit, and we did some initial game plan on all of our first opponents, but just waiting and saying, okay, let's wait until fall camp to figure out what we're actually good at. So anyway, that took a little bit of time, and now that we've got a really good feel for that, okay, great. I think we've got a handful of bread and butter calls that we're going to be able to run with those guys. But I just wanted to see, like, what are guys going to do when it's live? How are our new linebackers going to play? And we rotated the crap out of the linebackers in fall camp just to find out who can make a play when it's live and who can make a tackle and who can communicate. And same thing with the corners and the, extra D linemen and safeties and on down the line. So anyway, that was a huge thing for us, is what those guys do. How do they tackle? How do they compete? How do our DBs do when our offense throws up a fade ball and it's truly live? Who can go win? So those were some really telling plays, and I'm really glad that we got a bunch of those scripted and planned out, and that gave us a great evaluation, and it's got a lot of confidence in me that our guys that go out there will be able to make those plays.
Grant, we talked linebackers when you were on with me at Media Day. How did that – you look at the depth chart, you see Donovan Woolens play in the middle. Can you just give us the decision on how that came about, why he's the best fit in the middle for you?
Yeah, well, it's because he's got the most NDSU experience right now. And we've got a couple other guys that have been in the program about as long as he has, but he's played the most. And he has the most understanding of the communication that's necessary, the vocal leadership that's necessary on the field. Like I've been telling the linebackers and I've been telling the young guys that haven't yet played in a loud Farberdome environment, it is going to be louder than you've ever been at a college football game on Saturday. It's going to be really loud, and we need a guy that can go out and communicate and do some of those things. And I like a lot of our other linebackers too, don't get me wrong, but just the importance of making sure that the quarterback of our defense is a really good football player with some experience. He's just got too much of it. And the other part of it too, I think, is that some other guys have done a great job making plays. There's some other guys in some other spots that are, maybe they don't have as much experience. Well, great. Well, let's get them at an outside linebacker position where they can just trust their athletic ability and go and make some plays. There's a lot of communication that falls on both our safeties and our inside linebackers in particular. So that was where that decision came from. But there will be some times that you'll see Donovan back out playing some Sam linebacker. We will have some more rotations and more personnel packages than what we've had in the past. Just defense overall, and just making sure that the exact right guys in the exact right situation. Now, guys like Donovan, they're not going to come off the field a whole lot. He's obviously incredibly special, but some other guys, maybe there's a goal line linebacker, maybe there's a third down linebacker, things along those lines. We'll have some different crews in depending on the situation.
When you look at it, you potentially, if you have Gavin Sell and Ray James with Donovan, that is a really long linebacker unit. How much in the FBS world that kind of length is necessary now?
Well, I think it's huge just because everybody wants to spread you out. If you can
Right.
get some big, tall guys, our quarterback, Coach Polsick, has come to me many times and has said, when you got big, long, tall guys in there with long arms, he goes, yeah, there might be a window there, but just quarterbacks just get nervous just because those long arms reach out and get one interception, and every quarterback's taught, take care of the football, take care of the football. Don't throw it in those tight windows unless you're sure you can get it. So it's been interesting to see that. Probably not something that I maybe realized when I was a younger player or even a younger coach, of just the importance of getting some long guys in there. And yeah, grateful we've got a lot of athletic ability, speed, and length right now on the perimeter at the outside linebacker positions.
Defensive line is getting all the hub. When you've seen it, how is that position group between the tackles and the ends progress through fall camp? Say, all right, we're ready to let them go on Saturday night.
Yeah, well, sort of inside, it's like everybody wants to talk about Keenan and Logan, and those guys are some great players. I think the thing that I wanted to watch is I wanted to find out about the next 4 or 5 guys. Who is going to be the third best? Who's going to be the fourth best? Who's the first guy that's going to rotate in? Who's going to be our tough, nasty, gritty guy that goes in on the goal line package, things like that. So I've been really pleased with the growth and development of Zach Vanderpool and Elijah Wayne and Thomas Roberts and Obald. We have 6 defensive tackles that I personally feel good about, that if those guys are in, I'm not nervous about, I only can make certain calls on the call sheet. And honestly, same thing with the defensive end position. I think that we're pretty dang deep there, that I'm not worried about, oh man, this guy's not athletic enough for this call, or this guy doesn't know what he's doing in this call. We know what we're doing, and we're going to go play fast up front and make some plays. So we're going to cut the dogs loose up front when we get our opportunities, and let them and let them go to work for us. That's one of our strong positions on the team, let alone on the defense. We got great players up there, and yeah, we're excited about them.
How's corner shake out for you in terms of what you saw and what you're going to go with on Saturday?
Yeah, right now, Mario Moore and DJ Volz, those are our top 2 guys. They've earned that, and they've earned that through their off-season work, spring ball off-season in the summer, how they competed, fall camp, and then also just live. Like we did some live this fall camp, like I think everybody does at some point, and we threw up a lot of fade balls, and we did that on purpose, and we put corners in man-to-man and find out, okay, who can go and make a play? But then we also scripted a lot of plays where it's like, okay, now we got to make a block on the perimeter, we got to make a tackle on the perimeter. Who's going to get that job done? And those guys also stepped up and did a really good job there. So feel really good about the ability to cover the deep ball, and feel good about them stepping up and tackling people. Now, they're new starters at NDSU, right? So I know I've been telling those guys, and a lot of guys, it's going to be louder than anything you've ever played in. It's going to be more intense. We need to just stay confident. We're going to give you simple calls that we can get lined up in and play really fast. And we're going to get into the flow of the game. And after we pop our pads a couple times, I know those guys will all be able to settle in very quickly, and then from there just go play.
The offensive coordinator for Jax State, Taylor Housewright, was at Montana State, obviously when the Bison faced Montana State a couple times. How much does that go into your line of thinking, like, all right, he knows what defensively NDSU wants to do, maybe on a base idea? How much do you think about that or go into your game planning?
Man, that's a great question. Yes, it's definitely a part of it. I know that we've both gone back and looked at that game.
Yeah.
Both staffs definitely have. There's no doubt about it. But at the same time, I'm also like, well, it's also a completely different program for them. It's a different other coaching staff. It's totally different players. So I think all those factors are, you know what, they might take a tiny bit of that Montana State NDSU game plan, and we may take a tiny bit as well, but we've also changed a lot defensively in years since then. We've got different coverages and different blitzes and fronts that we run that we weren't doing at that time. So they're going to have to adjust to the new stuff that we've done. And we're going to have to adjust to the fact that, again, it's different players and different schemes, and we're going to watch Jacksonville State from last year and watch their players and what they do well. And it's hard to imagine they're going to deviate from what they know also. So anyway, that's the hard part about the first games, but also the fun part, because at the end of the day for us, we're going to make some calls that we are confident in and we know our players can execute. Then we're going to go let them make some plays.
When you watch Caden Creel, their quarterback, Grant, what jumps off the screen about what kind of quarterback he is and what you're facing?
Yeah, I would say just the fact that he's got a lot of quarterback run plays. It tells you, is he Trey Lance? Is he Cole Payton? I don't know if I'm necessarily saying that, but man, he's dang good. He's gritty. He's got great vision. If you don't do a good job of bottling up, he's going to bounce and turn an 8-yard run into an 80-yard run in a hurry, and he's obviously fast enough to make some of those big runs. So I'm really impressed by the guy. And then you watch his pass game, whether it's quick game or drop back pass, whatever you're looking at, he throws an accurate ball. He doesn't get a whole lot of passes batted down. He doesn't get sacked a whole lot. I'm really impressed by this guy. He's a heck of a quarterback as far as I'm concerned. It's going to be fun going against him. We're going to have answers both in coverage in the secondary. Okay, how can we confuse this guy? It's going to be hard, but we need to try. And then D-line up front, we need to throw different twists at them, different blitzes. All of a sudden, the next play, you're going to spy the guy. I mean, we constantly just need to mix up our looks against this guy to keep him off edge. Because I think if we just did one thing against him all day, I think he'd be able to have a good day for his team.
You played in the height of the dome being loud. How big a factor can that be Saturday night against a team that hasn't been here before in your mind?
Oh, I think absolutely huge. And I know they've played some good teams, and I know that program, they've got players that have been to, maybe they've been to Alabama or Auburn or something along those lines. But the dome is going to be absolutely rocking. That first third down of the game is going to be loud. It's going to be cranked up, and I can't wait for it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hair on the back of your neck standing up. So I'm trying to do a great job and explain that to our players and get them ready to go on it. And we're simulating crowd noise and things like that. But I would just, if a fan was listening to this, I would just say one false start, one misalignment, the quarterback, the receiver doesn't get the check because he doesn't hear. Something like that happens on 3rd and 5, and all of a sudden one interception changes the game for you. And that's the sort of advantage that playing in the Fargo Dome has for us. And we need it because we're going against a really good football team. So show up, be loud, cheer, and help us win this game.
How excited are you for this? You and I have talked often on FBS football, and if it happened or not, now it's here. Describe. You played games, man. I mean, what do you think the emotions for you are going to be on Saturday?
Man, great question. I'm going to be internally unbelievably excited. There's going to be some major nerves. I'm going to be honest with you. Doing our Stampede walk and walking by the fans, it's going to hit me for real then, and I'm going to be really nervous. And then I'm going to walk through those doors, and then I'm going to get my gear on and all that stuff, and then I'm going to be okay. And pregame, I'm going to be good. But right before kickoff and national anthem, man, those nerves are going to come back, and I'm going to be ready to go. But what I've learned over the years about myself is that I just need to be always able to take a deep breath and just say, you know what, just give them a call. You got a dang good defense and a good football team. Just take a deep breath, give them a call, and let those guys go play for you. And anyway, I had to learn that. And I learned that about myself and staying relaxed, but at the same time, bringing some energy. I know last year somebody came up to me and said, when you show up with a look in your eye that you're ready to go, many times the defense plays well just because you do a great job of bringing energy. And I'm like, man, that really told me a lot and spoke to me. So I'm going to make sure that I got a look in my eye on Saturday. I'll be ready to go, and that defense will be ready to go.
So
also.
I have to tell you this, the cameras find you quite a bit, whether you're jumping on the sideline. I think you tackled Logan Kopp last year in Grand Forks after that. I mean, you're bringing it there. You did it at the Citadel, if I remember right. We caught you on camera body slamming a guy after a play there. How much do the guys feed off of that, knowing you're right there with them?
I think they just love it and appreciate it. Yeah. I think that young men want to know that you're there to support them. And it's funny, like, I know I'm never trying to draw the camera's attention. I got no interest in doing that. But when Keenan Wilson gets unbelievable knockback on 4th and 1 at UND or makes an interception, I'm going to go get on his hat and make sure he knows that I love him and appreciate him like crazy. And we're going to celebrate those guys. So anything that I can do to uplift the young men on this football team and encourage them, I'm going to do that. And at the end of the day, too, we got to remember, I was learning this in high school football. I had great coaches, but I was always taught from a young age that you play football. And Coach Bull used to talk about it all the time. Guys, like, we put the work in on Saturday. It's time to go out and have some fun. Coach Kleiman used to always talk about having swagger. That was kind of his line for us. Guys, go out there with an attitude and a smile on your face and have a crap ton of fun. So we're going to keep doing that, because what I've learned again about our defense over the last 16 years now at NDSU is when we're smiling and having fun, we're really good and we're tough to beat. So we're going to keep doing that.
Can't wait, man. It's going to be fun to watch. I can't wait. We're going to do this each Thursday. Are you prepared for that? I mean, I talk to you all the time. Weekly might be a bit much. I don't know if you're prepared for that.
Man, good question. I'll have to think of some good stories for you. Don't worry. I'll have fresh material every week.
If you got something on Emmanuel, that'd be awesome, because then if I can, give him something in the booth to rag about, that would be great material. So you can think about that, okay?
I will do that for sure.
Good to see you, bud. We'll see you on Saturday, okay?
Thanks, Tom.
There he is. Grant Olson joins us each and every Thursday at 10 o'clock. Bison defensive coordinator gives us the lowdown on the game plan the Bison will have for Jacksonville State. We'll break. We come back. The OC will join us, Dan Larson, on the other side of the break to give us the offensive perspective the Bison are going to have for their matchup with the Gamecocks. We'll do that when Hot Mike rolls on here on a Thursday morning. We're back right after this. All right, welcome back, everybody. We gave the defense its love here to start this second hour of the show. It's time now to talk some offense. As every Thursday, as I mentioned, we'll have the DC and the OC. Dan Larson joins us here to talk on the Bison matchup with Jacksonville State. Pretty pumped about this. Do this each and every Thursday. It's great to see. I got to start, though. There was a photo that came out last week of the Seahawks and the Titans are doing their joint practices. I see Cordell Olson with Gray Zabel and Jalen Sundell. That I know you saw it. That was pretty darn cool.
Yeah, this is the worst I've ever been in terms of staying in contact with guys this fall camp. And so Gray sent me that picture. It's what a cool deal for those guys to be able to practice against each other, or at least be on the same field with each other, and then certainly get that picture afterwards. It doesn't matter if it was Cordell and Dylan one of those years, or Zach Johnson, and when I was just getting into it. But for those guys to have opportunities to be on an NFL field and then share a picture and some stories there, it's a pretty cool deal.
It's kind of hard to have a game right now without a Bison being involved in it, which is just the matter of fact. I'm not bragging, boasting. That's just fact right now.
Yeah. Well, our guys keep taking advantage of opportunities. I mean, really cool to see some of these highlights that have come out, even of Jaden Price and then Destin Talbert doing great things in the CFL. So it's always one of those things that you're really appreciative that you're at a place where guys have the opportunity to continue to chase their dreams. And more often than not, when our guys have had the opportunity to chase them, they made the most out of them. So
you've been coaching a long time. Where is the nerve ranking for week one? Is it like off the charts in terms of preparation? Where is that at for what's going to happen Saturday?
Probably not as high as my first year, Marietta versus Dubuque, when I was at Marietta College in Ohio. I think as you and I had shared earlier, I mean, it's just so different now because, different opponent, which, non-conference is always going to be that way. But all of a sudden you're not guaranteed that you're going to have the same team from the year prior to to this year. Right. So I would say it's probably up there. It's definitely at the top. I think there's some other games that throughout my coaching career that for various reasons had some different feelings mixed in with it. But this one, is certainly right at the top for sure.
How did you see offense manifest itself throughout fall camp, Dan, in terms of where did you see we made some real growth here throughout the fall that I feel better about it going into week one?
Well, I think just watching Nate kind of continue to settle into being the starting quarterback, ownership, command of the offense. I think even when you go in there as in the senior, and going through it like the spring for the first time, as there's still growings and adjustments and all these things that have to happen. What's the expectations now? Really, what is it? Instead of just sitting on the sidelines and kind of watching the aspect of it. I was really pleased with that. And then I think just how guys kind of jumped in and competed. It wasn't easy to say, okay, these are our top 6 wide receivers. It really wasn't easy to say, okay, this is going to be the 5 starting offensive linemen. So to watch some of those competitive battles and know, okay, we got guys that are continuing to push, it only bodes well for us moving down the road, because we'll only be as good as what the depth of our offense is going to be from a too deep standpoint.
All the talk obviously is on your QB. What have you seen out of Nathan Hayes, even from the end of spring practice to now, to say he's gotten even more confident? We're ready to let it rip on Saturday night.
Yeah, I think it's his comfortability with having a conversation. I think it's his comfortability with saying, I don't like, this doesn't fit me. I don't feel comfortable throwing this or reading this, or I really like this part of it. And same thing with, the run game aspect of it, So I think it's been more just his vocal willingness to talk about it. And, hey, if I ask you something, you don't have to tell me yes all the time. But then it's just been his command of the offense as well too. We've had probably our best, 7 to 10 practices, 2-minute drill, which is always really hard. And then it's really hard when you're going against our defense and the stuff that Grant and the staff kind of come up with. And, so I think that's we're moving in the right direction. There's going to be some things that are going to happen in the first game, some jitters and anxiousness that's going to creep up, and we're going to do everything we can to help him with that part of it. But the growth and maturity that he's had, I think, over the course of the last month gives us a ton of confidence.
You've seen him his entire time here, and just the passion he plays with. Is that something you embrace, or you try to rein it in a little bit, or is it a little bit of both?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be both. I mean, that if you try to pull it back, then you're not allowing him to be him.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need to lower your shoulder and try to finish on somebody on the sideline? No. So there's some way. Let's have a little bit of there's some gray area
Yep.
here, but I think it's what his competitiveness. I think it was his confidence in himself, and I think those are the things that drew Coach Hedberg to recruit him. Certainly, I think we've seen the maturity aspect as he's gotten older a little bit, but we got to let him be him, and we got to trust him, and he's got to trust us as well too. And I think there's been a great collaboration there over the course of the past month since we started fall camp.
I feel I've been derelict. I haven't talked enough about the running backs. What have you seen there throughout camp? Obviously, with Miles Mitchell getting an elevated role, DJ Scott being back, Naoti Puni just looks a physical specimen. What do we anticipate of what you're seeing of the running backs here on Saturday?
It's a good mixture. Probably we don't give DJ enough credit, for how good of a player he is. Obviously when you sit, and you're sharing some carries with Barika, you're not going to get as noticed, but he's a good, talented, every down player, first, second, third down. And Miles has really kind of shown us that he can handle a lot of those same things. Certainly it's going to be his first game. So, there'll be some growing pains with that part of it. And then, I think it's, whether you're talking about, Naoti, you're talking about Brady Wavernick is creating a role, Barry Pino's continued to push. There's some competitive depth in that room. They all do something a little bit different. We've got obviously certainly, we don't want to play a ton of guys, but what we want to do is we want to find ways that we can get guys involved that deserve to be involved. And then, try to start riding a hot hand once we get to, kind of late third and fourth quarter. And, who's running it right way, who's protecting it the right way, who's catching it the right way, and then obviously who has great ball security.
They all do something different, Dan, in your mind, at running back?
Yeah, I do. Miles, we kind of knew was, I don't know if I would say go as far to call him like a typical slasher, but, he catches the ball really well. He's a very headsy player. If we have to correct something twice, we usually don't have to correct it 3 times. I think that part of it, they've all done a really nice job with. But, there's certainly some power and different levels of speed, different levels of shiftiness. I think they're all a different version of a tough tackle. And so obviously we want all that to come out on Saturday.
Tight end is always a spot. That's a position coach that you coach. And I think you always shake your head at me when I ask you about Mr. Kessel. But I talked to him earlier in fall camp. He's not going to sneak up on anybody this year. People are going to know where 81 is on the field. How did you talk to him about that? Like, this is not what last year was like. Regardless of competition level, it's on tape now that they've seen what he can do.
Yeah, I don't have to talk too much about it. I think it's you bring it up one time, but the added size, the added strength that he's put on. Yeah. I think he obviously took that part very seriously in terms of this is what I got to do in order to play. Challenging him, can I only put you out there on third down, or do you actually want to play, a lot of the game, like on first and second down? I've been really impressed by him. I've been impressed by the whole room, but Reese has done a great job. He's still young, and I got to keep reminding myself that. I mean, he's far from a full finished product. His full potential is still out there. We're going to keep chasing and pushing for it. But yeah, I mean, he's going to be a guy that people are going to know. So therefore, everything's got to be a little bit better. Blocking's got to be a little bit better. Top of the route's got to be a little bit better. But I know he's up for the challenge.
Offensive line is always close to your heart. When you saw what the 5 were going to be, when did you get a sense like we're going to roll with this? Would you felt confident that this is the 5 guys we're going to go with?
Yeah, I mean, it was probably 7 to 8 to 10 days ago. Yeah. Certainly Nate Tosted kind of going down with an injury. I mean, maybe cleared some things up just a little bit. We're excited. Nate's attacked the rehab. He looks great right now. But I think what you started to see was a combination. Emp kind of still, being a little bit of the chief ram. Yeah. So him kind of being next to 2 really young players in terms of, I mean, I know Ryan played a few games, but he's still young. I mean, I don't think you can't really talk about veteran status, and so you're talking 20 plus starts. So I mean, for him to be in between him and Gage has handled the snapping part of it really well. And then I think, Josh and Kenne just kind of, they're a little bit of the same personalities. They're a little bit quiet, but I think there's an uber competitive person in both of them that they don't show it outwardly. I think it's more of just their drive and their demeanor. So I think those guys, and then again, they all beat out, a Noah Stummis. They beat out a Coy Okeson, but Jax Lewinsky and Nate Snucklehoff, like they beat out guys to earn that spot. which I think is great. They weren't handed it. And it only tells us that, okay, we've got a deep room that's only continue to get better. These are competitive guys. We got to find ways to play more offensive linemen. It comes down to it. If you think you've got 7 or 8 good ones, okay, how do we get these guys on the field and how do we play them?
Gage Schmidt's a crazy story that it's his birthday on Saturday. He's going to make his first start. I mean, he's consistently, at least I know I talked to you during spring ball about him, that he just kept getting better, that you had to keep him on the field, right?
Yeah. Competitive kid.
Yeah.
Again, just probably doesn't show you how competitive he is because he's a little bit of a stone face. But when you got a hockey background,
yeah,
like it's either you're a defenseman. Look, you're either stopping in front of pucks that are getting hit at you, right? You're controlling things on the board. You're almost out there on the ice all the time. He had some qualities and some characteristics coming out of high school that didn't just stop at the football field, and for him to earn a scholarship to do all these things as first. I think he's going to handle the moment really well. Again, we're going to have some growing pains as long as it's not a snap, to the right or to the left. Too bad. It's all the things that we challenged him on. He's stepped up, and I'm excited to watch him play.
I know you're going to give me the kitchen sink when I ask you this. How much do we see Jackson Williams now involved in the passing game in 2026?
Yeah, I got asked about that, and I think I've mentioned this maybe to you before. Bryce was going to be on an outside more often than not. Raja was going to be in the slot more often than not. So we were never afraid of kind of playing to our strengths, right? Like that wasn't ever anything that I looked at as a negative. But now it's kind of, okay, how do we work this puzzle to fit guys into pieces, and how do you actually create more variety and more variations out of your passing game by moving guys around,
right,
trade shift motion, formationally, all those types of things. So he's a really good player. He's in a really competitive room. There's a lot of guys there that have the ability to catch the football and run good routes, and we got to find ways to mix them all together to find the best way to get our guys out there. But Jackson's going to be involved. He's a super good player. He's an uber competitive guy, the types of players that we love to coach here at NDSU.
And he catches the ball, right? Which is the number one thing you'll always tell me about. You got to catch the ball, which is Jackson does that. His baseball background really helps on that. Let's talk defense here, what you're going to see. I've fixated on Jacksonville State's offense. They got some dudes at linebacker that are back. What stood out to you on tape? Say, okay, we got to attack this on Saturday.
Well, they play downhill and they run really, really hard to the football. The Sanders kid is really good.
Yeah.
I mean, for him to, I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to talk for the coaching staff there. Obviously, they know more about it than I do. But for him to beat out and play over, I think, a really talented senior last year, the number 49 guy on film was really impressive to watch. And then the Osteen kid is number 40. They're big, they're long, they run. I would think they're going to be as good as anybody that we'll see. Certainly, you would put them right up there with any of the top linebackers that we would have saw last year. Niekamp, anybody from South Dakota State or South Dakota. I mean, these guys can run downhill and they're really physical. It has our offensive line's attention because they're going to fit them up in the run game. Yep. But it's got our running back's attention, our tight end's attention. They're tough. They're really physical.
Seeing Caleb Nix on the back end, the Nix name goes without saying. His older brother is the starting quarterback of the Denver Broncos. How good of a safety is Caleb Nix out there on the back end?
Yeah, very good. And it's kind of like Jackson for us. Like anytime that you got us, who are they putting back there to return the football and the punt return and the kicker? It's guys you trust, right? And he never watched every single one of their games and never really seemed to be out of position, always seemed to kind of know where to go, nose for the football, gadget, misdirection plays. They didn't fool him for very long. He was getting back in on the tackle. So very solid, very good player. We're going to have to know where he's at because I think he's always going to be around the football. And that was the one thing that always stood out when you pop the tape on. I mean, the linebackers, this guy are always around the football, and then this D-line, they run to the ball. I don't know how many different times we've counted, D tackles jumping on the backs of running backs to make a tackle. They're a well-coached team. They're high energy and really physical defense. And
he does he punt returns, and I think he holds as well. So, I mean, he's on the field all the time.
All the time. Yeah, just goes to show you. I mean, good football players are good football players, and you're always going to try to find ways to have those guys impact it. And, James Hendricks, right? I mean, find ways for him to hold the ball and, hey, and we need you to play Sam linebacker this week. Yeah, coach, probably no issues. It just they're good football players are good football players.
I was asking Grant this. I'll ask you this before I let you out of here. Are there first game jitters for you? Doing this a long time. Do you have that, or you think you'll have it on Saturday before the game?
Yep.
What goes into that? It's just part of the deal.
Yeah, I think it is part of the deal.
Yeah.
I have nothing but belief and trust in our guys. When I go to bed at night on Friday and wake up on Saturday, hey, these guys are going to come out. They're going to play the right way. I think it's just more of, not to share a story, but I'm a young coach. I'm at Colgate University. Dick Biddle's the head coach. He's a Hall of Famer. And I just asked him, hey, what goes into it? He goes, well, I always think it's important to win that first one because then you can't ever go 0-12. And I was like, oh, wow, that's a heck of a way to look at it, coach. So I don't know if that played into it a little bit. It's more for me. I think it's not. I don't know if it's anxiousness. I think it's more just I want to see our guys come out and play, bump this thing back 2 more hours. Now we got to wait till 4:30. I kick it off at 10 o'clock. Let's get going. But it's more just, I usually do play a pretty good, okay, what will they do to this if I do this? If they do this, what's our answer going to be? And so you don't sleep very well because you're thinking through a lot of different things. But once the ball gets kicked off, I got nothing but confidence and belief in our players.
That's a great story. I've not heard that one before. That's true, though. He's right. If you win, you're not going to be 0-12, right? So
they can't fire me and say I went 0-12. I at least won one game. It's like, geez. And he'd been doing it for a long time.
Right.
Coach Bruce Smith. The guy had been around some Hall of Famers. He had seen it. And that was his mentality and mindset. I was like, all right.
How is that for a young coach to hear that? All right, well,
yeah,
great.
Right? Well, okay, at least if we win the first one, guys, good chance he's going to bring us back. Maybe, I don't know,
We're really looking forward to doing this all season long. Thanks so much for the time, and I'll see you on Saturday, okay?
Sounds great. Appreciate it, Dom.
There he is, Dan Larson, North Dakota State offensive coordinator. He'll join us on the show at 10:20 each Thursday throughout the football season. He knows it. Goes without saying. There's pressure on him this year, especially after how last season ended, to go out there and see what this Bison offense can do. And I got asked about it. I was on a separate show this morning, and I will reiterate what I've said before. We got to go to break here. I'm not concerned on the quarterback. I'm concerned on the ones he's throwing it to. I saw way too many balls dropped in the time I was up at camp. Who are the playmakers? The ones playing in the NFL now. Raja Nelson was really good. I don't know if he's ever going to get the respect he had. Chris Harris was really darn good. Those guys are gone. A lot of production that's not there anymore. It's on Jackson Williams and Reese Kessel and Mekhi Collins. And then is it Jeremiah Patterson? Is it Isaiah St. Romain? Logan Conklin? Somebody's got to make plays. I don't know who's going to do that. We'll find out maybe on Saturday. All right, we'll get back on schedule here. We'll take a couple breaks here, and we'll get a few emails, and we got a bunch of that coming in as we're into the final 20 minutes or so already of the show. Back on Hot Mic after this.